some of the work for trying to move towards more solution for carbon and all that. Other you say, no, we cannot decide now, but have meeting with our stakeholders. They'll tell you, tell us. So everybody agree except them after that. Yeah. They have to wait for their meeting. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Eric, and good morning to everybody. Very good. So I think that means I will use this microphone. I like to move when I doing presentations, so thank you for joining us today. As Eric said, I will explain first of all what is GSE, the Global Enabling Sustainability Initiative, and later on we'll talk in more detail about the digital repurpose movement and framework and the reason why we at GSE created this initiative. So GSE is a business industry initiative. We are a business association. We are based in Brussels, in Europe. We are a global industry association. We have an office in the United States, in Washington, D.C. We exist for over 25 years now. GSE was created as an industry initiative of the United Nations Environmental Program 25 years ago in Paris. In my role as chairman, a couple of years back, I was working for Deutsche Telekom in Germany. I was the chief sustainability officer, representing the company in GSE, and I decided to move it outside from the UN system, establish GSE as a legal entity in Brussels as a business initiative. And since then, we have been growing our membership. As you can see in these slides, we have here big corporations across the world, in different areas of the world, from Australia, where our member Telstra, or in China, we have suppliers like Huawei or CTE, and then many companies in Europe, as well as in the United States, in Japan, NTT, NEC. So, as you can see, it's mainly telecommunications, membership-driven organizations. So this was the way that we were created. Okay, thank you. And one very important thing is that although we are a business organization, we also have many partners working with us. The partners are different types of organizations, like universities, like other business associations, such as the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, or other industry organizations like the IEEE, which is the biggest engineering organization in the world with over 700,000 members, or the International Chamber of Commerce. And we also have 3 UN organizations which are part of our membership. The Climate Convention, the so-called UNFCCC, UNEP, which is the environmental agency of the United Nations, and also the ITU, the International Telecommunications Union, which is also our member. So as you can see, we have a substantial number of different stakeholders working with us. They are partners. They are not requested to pay anything. They are expected to collaborate with us in the work that we do and to support our different initiatives. And so, as we have been working in different areas, like climate change, circular economy, supply chain impacts, we have been working on these thematics for over 25 years, as I mentioned to you. And our initiative, our business association, works what I call the intersection between digital and sustainability. So we do not do any lobbying. We do advocacy. We do a lot of research. We provide that information to our membership so they can better respond to the sustainability challenges using digital technology. And we have been operating like this for 25 years. last year, I decided to run a strategic review of Jesse. We invited Accenture Strategy to help us and to work with us 4 months. And we asked Accenture 3 questions. One was, does it make sense that Jesse exists as an organization? So do we have a purpose to exist? The second question was, well, if we have a purpose, do we have the right fit to support our membership? And then the other question was, does it make sense to merge with other organizations? Or shall we consider and change the way that we are operating? And so with these 3-4 questions, Accenture spent 3 to 4 months running different interviews, speaking with our members, trying to understand what should be the future of our organization, either to continue or to merge or to disappear. Because there are many business initiatives across the world, and I think we as a business initiative, we need to understand whether we are bringing value to the members or not. The outcome was very good in the sense that in our strategy refresh, the conclusion of the work from Accenture was that just continue to exist, but change its purpose and change the way that we were operating. And I will come to it in a minute. This was going too fast. So first of all, we redefined our vision, core values, and value proposition as an organization. So our vision now agreed to foster digital innovation responsibly, to transition or to transform our world for good. Digital can provide many good things to people, but digital also has many critical issues that need to be addressed. So think about issues around privacy, security. Those are big challenges, or issues of digital technologies are being misused. Look at what is happening now, for instance, in the war in Ukraine, and how digital technologies are being developed, and innovations are being developed to make the most fancy drones that you can use to kill people, for instance. All of these are missiles. So we're talking about digital technologies, communications, that they can either be for good or for the bad. But our mission in Jesse is really to harness the potential of digital for good, because bottom line is that we want digital to serve people. We also defined our new core values. They are listed here. So a purpose-driven organization, digitally enabled, collaborative. So we want to work on, which is very important. So what we do needs to be serious and evidence-based. So if we are working, everything that we do needs to be supported by data that can be verified. And so our value proposition in relation to those working with us and to the members is about being an initiative that is leading and creating and enabling digital solutions to address society's most pressing challenges. So with these core values in mind, we are now developing a new organization which is member-centric, data-driven, so our decisions will be data-driven. We want to be a global aggregator. We will pilots, we will establish different working groups to address the sustainability challenges, and we want to be an innovative thought leader moving forward. So one thing that we have decided is that in the future, Jesse will no longer be a traditional telecommunications membership organization. So technology and sustainability cut across every single industry sector today. And so what we have decided is that Jesse will open itself as an industry initiative to the vertical sectors and to other stakeholders as well. So in the future, and this has been already approved at our General Assembly in Washington, D.C. last December, in the future, GSE will accept as its members energy companies, banks, companies that work on with buildings or construction, agriculture, health, education, whatever sector can be member of GSE. And why? Because, as I said, we are an organization that is supported by digital, and we have sustainability at the core of our activities. So this slide shows to you our main focus, where we go as an organization, and we are already engaging with other industry sectors and bringing them inside GSE to leverage the resources that we developed in the last couple of years. So we also agreed on what we call the thought leadership roadmap, and we will be covering key areas or key sustainability areas that represent in most, if not all the cases, relevant challenges to every single industry. So we're talking about net zero, resource management, responsible innovation, regulation, social impact, and get smart and smart. So this is where we will be focusing our activity. We have a 5-year plan in place. Sorry, this again going too fast. With the short, medium terms, covering all those actions to you. In each one of the areas, we have a roadmap that needs to be followed, or that we will be following, that will support the GSE organization moving forward. Of course, to achieve this, we need also a different structure. We need to restaff the organization and create a different regional organization as well. So I'm now in the process of hiring staff for GSE. We will have 3 regions, 3 offices. We will continue our office in Brussels, as well as our office in the United States, but we will be opening an office in Asia, most likely here in Singapore. I'm currently hiring a chief operating officer for the headquarters of GSE, chief of staff, and additional staff to support the organization. So our budget this year will be all dedicated to hiring staff and to make sure that we have the appropriate resources to support the strategy that we have just approved. Also, as we decided to change our membership structure, we will be now opening GSE to small and medium enterprises that we never have. As you can well imagine, a big Horizon or MTT or NEC, they would never allow a small and medium company to have the same voting rights as they used to have in GSE as a big corporation. So we adapted in a way that we provide the platform for every single company to have a voice. In that connection, we have created a council for small and medium enterprises to give them access to the board decisions. We will have 3 levels of SMEs, the very small ones that we call the micro SMEs, so companies that have maybe 5 to 10 employees. Then we have those that have around 250 employees, or between 10 and 250, and then up to 5. Of course, we will have the large enterprises as well, the partners, business associations can join GSE, and of course, non-for-profits, international organizations, universities. So each one of these organizations can be part of GSE. They have to pay, so in some cases, a membership fee. In other cases, they can be partners and without paying any membership fee. That is the case of non-for-profits or international organizations or universities. And then, of course, depending on the membership level, they will have the rights to access the information that we have in GESI. We have a huge resource of information in GESI since we have been working on sustainability and technology for the last 25 years. We are precursors in terms of developing the most prominent tools and relevant tools to address sustainability challenges. And one of the reasons I came also to Singapore in connection was to have a dialogue with the government, with GovTech and IMDA, because they are very interested in collaborating with GESI in the project that we are running at European level, and I will mention it and talk in more detail later on. So we need a different governance, GESI, to allow us to have a seat at the table, to have a seat at the board. And as you can see, we will be extending our board from current 9 members to 15. Not all the positions will be ICT, so we will be opening also the board to the other industry sectors, to small and medium enterprises, so they can be part of the decision-making process. We have a working group roadmap. So if you look at the left side, you see the way that we have been operating up to now, what we call industry responsibility, circular economy, enabling rights, climate change and carbon accounting. We will be operating in a different manner and looking at the other areas that I already mentioned to you. Some of them overlap, they have a different name, but they will also be covering a range in the broader scope. I'm talking about net zero, the regulatory and business risks, the social impact component, resource management, so very much about products and services, and circular economy, innovation and industry-specific groups, because as we are opening GESI to the other industry sectors, we also need to create those groups on energy or maybe on agriculture, education, and so on. So we need to understand, depending very much on the industry groups will be organized. Now, going a step back, this slide gives you an overview of the impact of GESI in the years before. Since 2007, that we have been a leading organization looking at the impact of digital technologies in development with a big focus on climate change. So in 2007, we've done the first report, a global report with McKinsey, that looked into the impact of digital technologies and the contribution of digital to reduce carbon emissions. And this was a global report, an independent report that was commissioned to McKinsey. We asked McKinsey 3 questions. One, it was to calculate the global footprint of our industry. The second question was to calculate the enabling sectors. And the third question was the business value. And so the conclusion from this report was that digital technologies could have a benefit 5 times greater than our own footprint. So our footprint was calculated at 2% of the global emissions, but we could reduce, according to McKinsey, 10% of the global emissions through enabling technologies. So we have repeated that report in 2012 with the Boston Consulting Group. We call that report the Smarter 2020. And in 2015, with the Century Strategy, the name of the report was Smarter 2030 because we enlarged the horizon of the report. And our 2015 report calculated the value of the enabling impact in 20% of the global emissions. So ICT or digital technologies can reduce 20% of the global emissions and decouple for the first time economic growth from carbon. We also calculated the business value in our 2015 report, and it was equivalent to the GDP of China. So if by digital technologies in the other industry sectors like agriculture, energy, transportation, manufacturing, and so on. We calculated for each one of those sectors what would be the enabling impact and the efficiencies derived from the implementation of digital technologies, and it was calculated at the value of equivalent to the GDP of China. And then you can see in this sequence that we also developed other products like the Greenhouse Gas Protocol product standard. We developed the GESI enablement methodologies. We developed a report on the chemicals avoided emissions guidance. We developed the ICT sector guidance. And so our members have been using all these resources to support their sustainability strategies as well. And more recently, in 2019, we did with Deloitte our so-called Digital with Purpose report. This was a piece of research where we spent 7 months with a global team of Deloitte and more than 200 people from our companies looked at the impact of SEM in relation to the 17 goals of nations in the 69 target. So the report concluded that digital technologies can impact 103 of those targets across the 17 SDGs. We analyzed over 500 case studies related with different areas and different vertical industries, and the 7 technologies were, from blockchain, virtual reality, 5G, and so on. So we looked at all those different technologies, correlated them with Sustainable Development Goals to understand what is the benefit of digital technologies to achieve sustainable development and the United Nations 17 SDGs by 2030. And so we call that report Digital with Purpose because the results were really amazing. We also asked Deloitte to identify the critical areas of our industry, and those were 5 areas: climate change or energy consumption, privacy and security, supply chain impacts, circular economy, and digital inclusion. So we still have many people that does not have access to technology. Over 2.5 billion people in the world, they have not access to the internet. And so we identify those areas as critical areas that GESI and its members should work and should address. And based on this report, we got an invitation from the European Commission to work on a project that is called today the European Green Digital Coalition. And the objective of this project, this is a 2-year project. We got the financing from the European Commission of 1.2 million euros to develop the methodology to measure what is the net impact of digital solutions in different industry areas. So we are now working with 40 major corporations, with business associations like the Digital Europe, developing the methodology to then provide the European Commission with the indicators that will then go to the European taxonomy, and this will be a standard that will be used in Europe to measure the impact of digital technologies in relation to different industry sectors. This is not an easy task. So we collect studies from those 40 companies, we define the criteria, and when we related the case studies with the criteria that we identified, criteria that we developed, and from those 10, we only picked up 2 because the other 8, they had no available data to allow us to pursue with the development of the methodology. Case studies, we only have 2 that we are using in real life to develop the methodology, so you can see that this is not an easy task. But anyway, we will continue this at the end of this year, and we got an interest from IMDA, which I'm meeting tomorrow. IMDA wants to apply this methodology in Singapore as well. So we will be with the IMDA and see whether we will progress, and we will be also using this standard here in the region. The World Bank is also having conversations with us, the European Investment Bank. All these organizations are looking at the work that we are doing to implement the methodology in the future. So these are some of our tools. This is only a snapshot of many, many tools that we have developed for our members. We were the first organization in the world to develop what we call a materiality assessment. Now this is all over, it's spread. Almost every single company before issuing a CSR report, they do a materiality analysis. We've done this 18 years ago for the first time for the industry. And our members have been using this. We have been updating this report every 3-4 years. We have a tool for measuring impacts in the supply chain called eTask, the electronic tool for accountable supply chains. We have in this tool more than 8,000 companies covering more than 20,000 factories. This is a tool with over 350 indicators where companies can understand what is the impact within their supply chains. I'm thinking about a company like here in Singapore, Singtel or M1. So we have in this tool the top suppliers of those companies, and so it will be easy to identify whether there is a risk in their supply chain or not. We developed recently the tool on TCFD, which is a scenario analysis toolkit for the companies to measure climate impacts in their operations, so they can understand what are the risks and opportunities derived from climate impacts. We have 4 different scenarios: the 1.5 degree to 2.4 degree scenario. We have deployed this on the CDP reporting services. So if you have a company, you can use CDP and use this tool to understand what is in your operation. And we developed the Digital Access Index. This is a huge database covering 156 countries. We have 17 digital indicators in this database, so you can understand and you can see that the countries that have deployed more technology, better infrastructure, they are the countries that are really better positioned and more developed. You can see a correlation between digital technologies and sustainable development. These are some of the reports that I already mentioned to you, the SMART reports. These are some of our success stories. The Responsible Minerals Initiative. We were the first organization in the world to look at the impact of exploiting minerals in Congo. Our first report was used by the OECD, by the European Commission, by the State Department in the United States. Just a couple of months ago, we did a report for the German environmental economic around the use of this. We developed the first code of conduct for broadband and data centers in Europe, which is now being used by the European Commission. And I already mentioned to you the European Green Digital Coalition. So to finalize, this gives you a snapshot of where Jesse is actively engaged. So we have a presence in the World Economic Forum that just finalized. We organize events with our members. We participate in initiatives connected with the Climate Innovation Forum or the Sustainability Innovation Forum. We are present at the Climate Week in New York. We have a partnership with the Climate Convention that organizes the COP meetings. The last one was in Egypt, as you know. So we have a partnership that we bring companies together to with a digital innovation hub, where we talk about innovations, digital technologies in connection to climate. So we are now preparing COP28 in Dubai. And we are now a partner of the UN will take place next year, organized by the UN General Secretary. And the video that you saw at the beginning is our main beacon project, the Digital Purpose Global Summit last year in September in Lisbon, one day. We organized that summit, and the objective of the summit is to connect technology to people. So we need to show the benefit of technology for people, and so at the summit we had 24 panels covering all areas, digital, from education, agriculture, health and well-being, cloud, energy, and so on and so on. So this year we will have a 3-day summit, 27, 28, and 29th of September. Of course, you are invited if you like to attend. It will be a pleasure to have you there. And I will stop here to take any questions that you might have. So I think I gave you an overview of our business association. The first to know about our because this is the first thing I'm at, after we made a decision in Washington last December, where we decided on this new strategy. So you are welcome to take any question. Thank you.
Any questions?
Hi. Thank you for a very insightful, discussion with your TC. But my question is, as it is now, you're looking at 2030 or sooner or later about this climate change and digital transformation. But there's so many data, so many organizations out there. Look very interesting, but coming from Singapore and I got my operation in Indonesia, and it doesn't translate, things doesn't cascade to the lower level, because political, sometimes, you got Mekong River damping, that. But so many things that, too many organizations. My concern is, what I look at your membership is all big guys, and you got the greenwashing things, the lower guy, what voice can they, communicate to you and say, look, we have a voice too, right? All this coming COP will be headed by a guy who headed oil company, fossil company, It look good, and we don't know only greenwashing, we got more, not deniable, but delays them, the big guys, they still putting money, funding still going to the fossil fuel. The big guy, JP, you name it, you know better than me. For example, in Brazil, I know for a fact we have operation. I don't have an operation in those lower south Brazil. There's a lot of biofuel product that can be harvested, but we are going after them, But the Amazon is different from the south Brazil, My question is, all these things, we are very confused now, right? For me, to get a funding, you go to ADB, you name it, you just talk, because even in the renewal, we are more focused on solar and what not you have here, the hydrogen and that. But obviously, there's so many things can be done on the side, on the chip there. But then again, how we get moving. Funding is very, very crucial, And I want to join this one. Digital transformation is good. Then you got a Web3, you get metaverse, and without digital transformation, we need money, For example, like Indonesia, to get the ID, the government need money. India done a better job identification. Got billion people on the identification round. But I just want to know where it's going to lead to the purpose of 2030. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Luis, over to you.
Well, it seems to me that you made work at a real question. feeling about where we're going in terms of 2030. From my experience and from my professional work as well, as I mentioned to you, I spent almost 20 years of my career leading the sustainability department of a big corporation. So, first of all, there is one thing that you spoke about, which is greenwashing, which is a real thing. So, an example of that. Think about every single climate summit that is taking place in the world. I'm only mentioning the last two ones, in Glasgow and in Egypt. And so you see that summit, you have the political discussions around climate, and then you see lots of different hundreds of companies that come to the summit to explain their activities and to explain their targets. And what you see many companies saying, well, I will be reducing my emissions by 20%, by 30%, whatever. I used to say, if all those promises have been realized, the world will be saved by now, because all those promises put together will solve the climate crisis that we are living. What I'm trying to say is that we can no longer continue to accept that corporations throw out promises without being accountable for those promises. So most of the companies, most of the corporations that are making commitments to reduce carbon emissions by 2030, by 2040, by 2050, almost none, or maybe none of those companies are really made accountable for those promises. No one is really following that process. So the issue of greenwashing is a really issue, and that's something that we want to revert with digital with purpose, and I will talk about it on my second intervention when we talk about the framework. The other thing is that we do not have the necessary investments to respond to the current crisis situation that we are living, mainly on the climate front. We all know that after the Paris Agreement, the governments have agreed in investing, or let's say the developed countries, to support the developing countries with $100 billion per year to support the current climate crisis. That money has never been given or used. So those promises made in Glasgow, made this year also again in Egypt, what we are seeing is that the money is not really flowing where is needed, which is developing countries. From the private sector perspective, companies continue to invest because investing in digital is highly profitable. So almost every single digital company makes a lot of money. But that's business as usual. We need more than that. We need the investment banks, we need the regional investment banks, we need the World Bank, we need the countries that are responsible for the current crisis that we are living, so the developed countries that put the CO2 in the air. We need those countries also to pay for the damage that has been created, but we have not seen that to take place. So this is the current situation that we are living, and to overcome that, you need policy intervention. You need to take things more seriously, and you need companies as well to take responsibility for the impacts that they have. One of the things that is not happening, that should be happening, is that the digital technologies the climate conversation. So if you go to the COP meetings, to the events related with climate, what do you listen? You listen conversations about the fossil fuels and the problem side, but you do not listen anyone talking about the solution side. And digital is part of the solution. So one of the missions that we have in GESI currently, and that's why we signed an agreement with the Climate Convention, with the Digital Innovation Hub is to bring the digital technologies to the attention of the policymakers and to consider digital, because as I mentioned to you from the GESI reports, we saw that digital technologies can really contribute to reduce carbon emissions. But if there is no incentive, if that reduction is not part of the carbon tax or considered in the context of the global carbon tax, then the companies have no incentives to develop more innovations and to invest on digital. So this is what we're doing. I do not know if I replied to your large question, but this is my comment about it.
Okay, thank you, Luis. If I may just add a bit on the questions regarding the SME and the smaller companies. Actually, when me and Luis did discuss yesterday, so we will open up not the membership for the big organizations. We also will have it for the SME. And this is where the accelerator come into the picture, which is I will explain later on after the break. Because the smaller company, they need more guidance, they need more help. So we have the accelerator, which is digital with purpose accelerator. So this one will actually provide a step-by-step guide and hand-holding. So the company will actually understand the situations and then how to move on from there, from one level to another level, in order to help them to reduce the carbon emissions. Of course, it's using the digital innovation and technology. In the meantime, it is like we will also try to engage the startup community, whereby they can actually allow them to have innovative ideas using digital technology to help, right, not only the big organizations, not only the government, but also the smaller companies, right, by utilizing the digital solutions, how they can actually reduce it. Because now the thing is like people are not aware, they don't know if you move your system to the cloud, how much emission you can reduce because of the utilization of paper. There are some companies which is like, they are doing the appliances, they always do the delivery, there's a lot of paper, they need to actually keep track of the delivery. But then because of the move to the digital solutions, they actually save over a few millions, right, just for buying the paper, right? So there are many case studies that we will share, and this is the one of the way to help the smaller company. That's why we have the accelerator, not only for the big company but the smaller company as well. So later I will share more. We can discuss more on this, on your ideas, what are the things that you look at and the issue that you're facing. That's why today we purposely have a room like this, because it's like a cabinet. You can debate, right? We open for debate, so things that like we want to discuss, so then we see how best we can do it, right, together. Thank you. Is there any other questions?
Thank you. Hi, my name is Xiao Ying. I did the ESG practice and privacy with a law firm, DwP Law in Singapore, and I also run a crypto investigation venture that is looking into how to do the due diligence on the digital assets of the clients. So thank you so much for sharing about GESI, and I'm definitely very interested in the tools that GESI is offering to its members. I do see that you have things like materiality map, as well as your e-TASH, which is your digital data in terms of the emissions for the members tracking. But also, I was just wondering, with all the tools that many big organizations, international organizations that already have, like your SASB, which is now part of the RFRS, they also have a very popular materiality map. And how do we decide which tool to use, or rather what makes a tool compatible or special compared to the rest of the international organizations? So that's the one question. And the other question is relating to the plan of GESI, how it's expanding its, I guess, reach, and how that partnership between private, government, and other sectors is so important, and what you want to achieve, and that's a great ambition. But I'm also wondering, how does that translate in the local context when we also have our local efforts, right? How do we see Jesse getting more involved in this part of the region, Singapore or Southeast Asia or Asia in general. So I guess, I hope my two questions are clear, and thank you.
Well, thank you so much. So first of all, as a law firm, you can be now Jesse member. And by the way, we have 3 law firms in Jesse now. Exactly by some of the points that you asked in your question. Our intention is really to create a place where the different stakeholders can interact together. And you mentioned a very important point, which is there is a challenge about tools or solutions that can be used depending where you are. So one of the advantages that we have is that because by being global and having a global perspective, the work that we do is very much based on benchmarking what is in market and understanding what is needed as well. We are a type of organization that is not looking to the past. We are very much looking to the future, and so that's why we do every 2-3 years we do investigations about where technology is going, because technology is now being embedded in almost everything. And you are working in a fascinating area, which is privacy, cybersecurity. So where we are seeing huge challenges and problems that need to be addressed, because those problems are similar everywhere. So they are common everywhere. So we need to build an organization that really encompasses all those questions that you raised. What we have been seeing in the world is that when it comes to the sustainability conversation, you see lots of business models being developed around sustainability. I always tell a short story. When I left Deutsche Telekom, I was senior vice president. I had a very good job. And a big company, 250,000 employees. So people told me, why are you leaving? You have a good job and you have a good salary. So why are you leaving the company? And I was leaving because I wanted to be quieter and enjoy some life. But people was telling me, yeah, but you're leaving, you no longer have your salary and so on. And I told them, look, I'm not worried about that. If I want to develop a business model around sustainability, I can make a lot of money because I know how to do it. And so what we are seeing many different initiatives taking place around the sustainability conversation, that they are not driven by solving the critical issues that we are facing. They are driven by creating a business model around it. And then what comes after, nobody is interested. As long as I have my business, I make some money, I can go on. We in Jesse, we do not have that type of approach. We are really creating an organization to make an impact. And you will listen from my next intervention with digital purpose that we developed a framework to measure impact over time. So we do not want anyone in Jesse that comes here just to make a promise or using our organization as a place where they can greenwash and benefit from our credibility. We want to work with the transformative companies, being small, medium, or big, bring them all together, creating a platform with policymakers and different stakeholders, like non-for-profits and so on, education, universities and so on, so we can create a positive environment that responds to the challenges that we are facing. And so, by developing the digital repurpose framework, which I will explain later on in more detail, we will be creating the pathway to bring credibility to the ESG component that we do not have today. So you see many different initiatives, SASBs, name it, CDP. Just to mention, CDP today is a repository of data, and they created an organization to make money. And companies are paying for that. Why are companies paying for that? Because they like very much every year to be named CDPA or CDPB or CDPA plus. But this is not solving the problems of the world. Because those companies replying to CDP, they are reporting on an activity, but that activity is not measured over time, and nobody understands if that information is creating progress and is responding to the challenges of climate. So we have a totally different approach to ESG. We developed the digital repurpose to be a credible framework to help companies. We call it a tool, actually. It's not an ESG reporting system. It can be compared, but we develop it as a tool. And this tool can be used by any company in the world. We adapted it for small and medium enterprises, for big corporations, to help them to evolve in their journey and to show what kind of contribution they are giving to the sustainable challenges that we are facing in the world. And this is the way that we operate. And coming to your point about the regional component, of course we have a challenge because our history was we were born in Paris. We had big corporations that wanted to run the organization, and we lived like this up to recently. But now we decided to take a step further. We decided, okay, all the data that we collected, all the research, all the tools that we developed, that we have been using on our own benefit for the companies, let's make them available to others, because there is a lot of research, a lot of value behind them. So I challenge you to find a similar organization to GSE in the world. There is nothing that you can compare with us. Because we have been working for over 15 years, maybe even 20, on sustainability. So when people was talking about conflict minerals in Congo, the forest was being destroyed, the gorillas were being killed, because our industry was exploiting the minerals to do the batteries for the mobile phones. We stepped up and we did the first impact assessment. We identified the critical problems and we said stop it. And we created a movement that is called the Responsible Minerals Initiative, where we have thousands of companies and smelters reporting about where the minerals are coming from, and the companies can evaluate whether the minerals are coming from conflicting regions or not. And so this is the type of work that we do in GESI, this is the type of work that is necessary, and it's important that we spread this to different parts of the world. And that's why with this new opening of the organization, we will be investing in positioning GESI in other regions with different dialogues, with policymakers as well, because without policy, sometimes we cannot enforce things. And we hope that we can create really this digital with purpose movement. We would like to grow it, opening it to everybody, independent of the sector where you operate. As I mentioned to you, law firms, we have now 3 law firms, part of the digital repurpose movement. Actually, next week, I will be presenting in Lisbon in a law company, digital repurpose only for lawyers, because they saw a huge interest in the movement. I'm not sure if they are looking at it also from a business perspective. Maybe they can advise clients as well. There is probably a business component on it. I do not care about that as long as what we are doing can be used with a purpose and for good. So that's the way that we are operating. But we do not have in GESI any particular interest in creating a profitable organization. Our interest is to bring the different stakeholders, the minded people that really wants to make an impact for good, because the world is not on track. So the world is going in a very dangerous direction, and we need to speed up. Because we need to think about one thing. In 2050, we will probably have 10 billion people in the world. Currently, we no longer have the resources for the people that we have. So if we are adding 2 billion more, or maybe more, So we are aggravating the problem. So we need to change. And for change to happen, we need to take responsibility and we need to look at things in a different manner. Also from a consumer perspective, we as consumers, we are not walking the talk. We always want more and more and more. I was yesterday at the Wireless Broadband Alliance meeting, and someone asked me, I do not understand the business case of sustainability. I told him, well, you don't understand for the simple reason that you are not interested in it. And I asked him, tell me how many mobile phones do you have? And he told me, oh, I only have 4. I said, yeah, but why do you need 4? You need 1. Because the other 3 is a waste. We no longer have minerals on Earth for the needs that we have. Think about the batteries of electric cars. You know how many kilos of different minerals are needed, from lithium to cobalt and so on and so on. We talk about millions of kilos of minerals. We don't have those resources on Earth. So now the governments are looking at the oceans, deep sea mining. They want to scratch the bottom of the oceans to take the minerals from there. And we're making the same mistakes that we did in the past on Earth. This cannot continue. So this was probably a very broad answer to your question, but I hope that I have replied to the different points that you raised.
Thank you, Luis. Any more questions? Okay, if not, we actually have 2 more topics from Luis. One is regarding the digital repurpose as a whole, and then also one more is on the framework of certifications. So, you want to do it after break? Yeah, because it's
It's up to you.
Okay, so we can actually combine these 2 after break, right? So we have a coffee, tea, and some snack outside. So now is, let's see, what is the time now?
10:37.
10:37. Can we come back here by 11? 11? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. So I mentioned to you that one of the projects that we are now very, very much engaged is the digital, what we call today the digital repurpose movement. First of all, digital repurpose was, as I mentioned to you, a report that Jesse has done in 2019. This report is only available online. Is a huge piece of work that we've done together with, as I already mentioned, with Deloitte. We analyzed over 500 case studies covering every single sector and the 7 different technologies. The report gave us again the evidence that the digital solutions are a fundamental driver of sustainable development. So in Jesse, we have been doing these reports for, as you saw, since 2007. So every report that we have been doing shows that the impact is growing all the time. The question is, how are we going to make this reality? Because one thing is to have a fantastic study that is showing the benefits of digital technology. The other thing is to implement those results and to make sure that those results will be realized. So I'm moving on from this slide, which shows you a little bit about Jesse, that I already explained. Here on the right side, you have the members of the board of Jesse. As you can see, big corporations, American companies and European companies, as well as Telstra from Australia, which is also sitting in our board. But I would like to showing you a short video to explain to you what is digital with purpose all about.
In evolutionary terms, all the technology that surrounds us today just happened yesterday. Innovations in energy, biology, chemistry, modern physics, transportation, and communications all evolved just a century ago, and it's accelerating. We must all ensure this evolution does not come at the cost of humanity or the planet. But the trends are heading the wrong way. Humankind and Earth face serious threats that require urgent intervention. Digital with Purpose is an ambitious movement exclusive to companies and leaders committed to accelerating their positive impact and driving sustainable change through digital technology. It is a movement of leaders joining forces in a race to deliver against the Paris Agreement and Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. By giving technology a transformational role that puts the planet and humankind at its core, can we reverse the effects of climate change and positively impact our societies?
Very good. So this is the trailer that we have done with a famous movie maker. I don't know how many of you heard about Ridley Scott, the famous movie maker. He's part of our movement. So Ridley Scott is a member of Digital with Purpose, and he has done this trailer for us when we launched Digital with Purpose for the first time in 2020, I think, 21, during the pandemic, still at Web Summit. And what is Digital with Purpose? So I already mentioned to you that for us it's important that we move away from talking to action. And so Digital with Purpose is an attempt to move from the conversation to the real action and to show what is the impact of digital in relation to the Sustainable Development Goals. So it's a movement that I have a very interesting phrase here which says the movement is not about repackaging existing efforts. So we do not want to repeat anything that already exists in the marketplace. It makes no sense. So if things already exist, why should we reinvent the wheel? And so we spent from 2019 up to 2021, we gathered together over, I don't know, maybe 250 experts, looking at what we need to do to move from the conversation to the action side. So I commissioned them, all those people, to look into what needs to be done. So we knew from the Digital with Purpose report that digital technologies can have a positive impact, but that we already knew a long time ago. But what the Digital with Purpose report also showed to us is that the digital industry also has its own pitfalls, its problems. And we identified 5 key areas that need to be addressed. As we deploy more technology, we are emitting more carbon emissions as well. So we need to reduce our own consumption. We need to invest more on renewable energies. We need to become not climate neutral. We need to go in the net zero direction. The second problem was around privacy and security, circular economy, the third one, supply chain impacts, and digital inclusion. So these 5 areas are critical areas that the digital industry has not been paying very much attention, but they need to be addressed. So when we are thinking about carbon impacts, what are we talking about? It's about creating the conditions for the companies to move to the net zero agenda. So if we're talking about circular economy, which, by the way, it's an area where we are not doing almost anything, it's about how do we design for circular economy? How do we develop different devices? How do we dematerialize existing devices, and so on and so on? How do we recover? How do we put back into the market used devices? So we need a different approach, a different strategy. When it comes to supply chain impacts, we have been working on this for over 20 years now. But there are consistent problems in our supply chains that we have not managed to get rid of them. And I only mention one to you: child labor, slavery. It's incredible, but our companies, this sector, which is probably the most wealthy sector in the world, is still using slavery and child labor to produce its products that we are putting into the market. And this is not acceptable. It's a fundamental human right that needs to be addressed. Number 4, digital inclusion. So we can not only provide communications in the best areas, in the cities, we need to provide communications for everybody. So we need to make sure that communications and the internet becomes a universal service, because through those technologies we have the evidence that we can improve the living conditions of people and the wealth of many countries. And finally, I already mentioned privacy, circular economy, supply chain, digital inclusion, and the other one is, there's one missing, I'll remember it in a minute. So we have to look at all these areas to address them. And so in Jesse we said, well, we need to give a step further. And so we put together those teams, I don't know, 220, 50 people. We have done an extensive benchmark of every single ESG framework in the marketplace. And what have we seen is that the current ESG frameworks, they do not allow for companies to make progress. They are used, in many cases, to greenwash companies' operations. And so what do we see in our industry, but not only in our industry? You see those ESG frameworks being used in a given time in the year for companies to say, I'm the best one on Dow Jones Stock Index, I'm the best one on CDP, I'm the best one on Sustainalytics, and so on and so on. But we are not seeing, and we are not really making progress through responding to those frameworks, although the companies spend a lot of money to respond to those frameworks. And in some cases, they even pay to be part of those frameworks. So we said, well, we need to get rid of this. We need to have a different approach, and we need to design something that really ensures that we are making progress in this area of sustainability, covering all the different aspects that we need to cover. So we designed what we call today the Digital with Purpose framework that I will show to you in a minute. And the entry point of Digital with Purpose framework, we made it very simple, but also very serious. So for any company to be part of the Digital with Purpose framework, they need to sign what we call the pledge. And by the way, there are many pledges. No, we are not here creating anything new, but the pledge has 4 components that need to be signed by the top leader of any given company, the CEO. And by putting his face on the pledge, the CEO is taking a huge responsibility and a huge commitment, because if the CEO of that company is not walking the talk, we will go on blame and shame. And so we do not want anyone to be part of Digital with Purpose only for the sake of communications, because they are joining us to show, well, we are good, we are part of this. We do not want any company to join us because of that. We want companies, committed companies that join Digital with Purpose, really committed to make a transformational change through digital technologies. And so the pledge has these 4 principles that you see here: commit to supporting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and to establish practical and incremental steps to become a purpose-led business. Second, take and report concrete action on climate change in line with the Paris Agreement. So what does this mean? In line with the Paris Agreement is becoming net zero by 2050 at the latest. Then embrace the principles of impact, transparency, and report accordingly every year. Many companies report, but they are not very transparent many times in the reporting they are doing. And then develop and deploy digital technology with positive social impact. And this point number 4 is fundamental, because it's about how do we make sure that we are providing, the conditions for everybody to be part and to be included in the society. And so we ask the CEOs to sign these 4 commitments, and any company that would like to join, the expectations that we have is that they make this public commitment around the 4 principles. They also contribute to improve the framework, because we have worked on this for 2 years, but nothing is static. It's important that everyone comes with his voice and say, well, I would like to change this, maybe you should do things in a different way, and then to collaborate with others to develop and realize the ambitions to maximize the positive impact on the SDGs and to mitigate the negative impacts. And this is a big ask, by the way. And so if we are going to walk the talk, there is a lot that needs to be done. And so this line shows to you how we have designed the framework. So we looked into the 17 SDGs, and the Digital with Purpose report, as I mentioned to you, showed us 3 things: the negative impacts, the positive impacts of digital technologies. It also showed us that many people have not yet aligned their strategies with the positive impacts. And so we developed the framework in 3 layers. The first layer is about purpose. What does that mean? We have a set of metrics that cover the company's commitment to become a purpose-led business, connecting its core business model to a desired impact on the SDGs. So that means, a given company, if I think about, Singtel, traditional telecommunications, or M1, The company in its environment, they know which areas they can impact. They will not be able to impact the 17 SDGs, but they need to align the purpose with those areas they can make an impact. And so they need to adapt the internal governance of the company to make sure that that alignment takes place. So the metrics that we developed help the companies to do that. The second layer is about digitally enabled solutions. So here we developed metrics which are also framed by the SDGs that reflect how a company contributes innovative digital solutions through its products, services, and core business practices to improve the sustainability of our society and planet. So these metrics have been designed, and this is new. There is no other framework in the world with these metrics. These metrics are designed to show the enabling impact of digital technologies in different areas of the society. And we have now metrics in 5 areas: education, health and well-being, natural capital, human rights, and climate change. And so we promote through the framework those metrics. So companies need to explain what kind of investments or what kind of innovations are they making that really contribute for a better world through the use of technology. Then the third layer is the one that we call responsible business, which is what I call normally walking the talk, which cover the 5 critical areas that I mentioned to you. So we develop metrics covering climate change, digital trust and responsibility, that is about privacy and security, and so on, circular economy, digital inclusion, and supply chain. And what we have in these metrics in the responsible business side, we have red flags. On supply chain, we have a red flag on child labor. So if a given company has child labor in its supply chain, when responding to our metrics, the score of that company is 0. So 0 tolerance on child labor in our framework. So this is not about reporting, I detected a child labor issue in my supply chain. You answer to an ESG and then you go on. It's not about that. We need to change. We have in the digital trust and responsibility on privacy, we have red flags as well. So if ethical principles are not respected in a given company, you cannot not trust that company. So a company that is not really responding to those metrics in a positive manner, again, they will have 0 in their score in that area. So the way that we designed this framework, we called it a race to the top. So the mandate I gave to those 250 people working to design this, I told them, all of them, in every single part of this framework, I need you to tell me what means leadership for the business. So what does that mean, leadership on climate change? What does that mean, leadership on circular economy, on supply chain, and so on and so on? And so we have what we call the leadership framework, where we say, and we show the companies, if you want to be a leader on climate change, you need to be net 0 by 2030. It's not in 2050. Because in 2050, if we continue as we are today, we will probably be at 3 or 3.5 degrees already. And we cannot sustain that. The world cannot sustain that. So leadership means net 0 by 2030 on climate. What does that mean, leadership on supply chain? Is 0 tolerance on child labor. What does that mean, leadership on trust and responsibility? It's to abide by those principles that we define in the framework. I do not have all of that on top of my head. What does that mean, digital inclusion? Is to invest on solutions that provide connectivity for those in need, developing innovations to include people, deploying technology, and so on and so on. So we designed this framework with this concept, race to the top. It's a competitive framework. We want to put the companies one against the other, because the private sector, we are good on competition, right? So if we are good on competition to make money, we need to be good on competition on sustainability as well. By the way, by doing this, the companies are making a lot of money. Because if they are more efficient in their network infrastructure, if they innovate for sustainability, they will reduce their cost line. I give you an example. As Chief Sustainability Officer of Deutsche Telekom, I put in place a plan to reduce 20% effective of the energy consumption of the company. It was not 20% of carbon, because with that conversation we are not going anywhere. So I put in place a plan covering the infrastructure, buildings, IT equipment, fleet management, data centers. I told all those departments and said, your task is to reduce 20% of your energy. Do you know how much money I saved in 3 years? 100 million euros. 100 million euros that was saved in energy. And then you can translate that in carbon emissions afterwards. And then you can say, okay, what does that mean? 20% of effective energy reduction in terms of carbon emissions. It's not about climate neutrality, because climate neutrality is not taking us anywhere. If you buy certificates, you are not giving any contribution to climate. And so what we are designing here is an effective program for the companies to take leadership, use this as a tool, and being competitive, being better than the other. Because the framework will allow you to benchmark you against your competitor as well. And so by designing this, our intention was not to create a burden to the companies. It was to give them something different from what they have in the marketplace, that many companies use for communication, this overall ESG environment. We are designing something that companies can show progress. They can go to any financial institution, they can go to the government, they can show this is what I'm doing effectively, because this framework, by the way, is verified. So we have auditors that verify the metrics of the framework. And we designed the framework not only for digital companies, but also for non-digital companies, and I will explain to you how we have done it in a minute. So, main concept of the framework, race to the top, competitive, and we are covering these areas. So on the purpose is about communicating your purpose, embedding, oversight and disclosure, climate change, TCFD, SBTI, net zero. So these are the big headlines of the metrics, as you can imagine. Then on circular economy, value chain, material flows, products and infrastructure. We designed our circular economy program with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, which is the most credible organization in the world on circular economy. Supply chain, where we have a huge experience with our e-task tool, where we have 8,000 companies, 20,000 factories. So we're looking at the risk-based assessment, support for suppliers, minimum standards, privacy, freedom of expression, safety and security, and digital inclusion, which is about extending access, digital skills and accessibility. So these are the headlines of the framework. Then on the digitally enabled solutions, we developed the metrics in these 5 areas. These are the organizations that work with us, helping us to develop the metrics: carbon trust, sustainable flows of natural capital, impact ROI, COVIDIA, and DACA. So these are organizations which are specialized in the respective areas, and we selected them after a consultation process to work with us. And they developed the metrics for climate change, natural capital, human rights, education, and health well-being on the enabling side of the framework. And we have a generic framework that can be applied through these 5 different areas. And it is our intention to continue to enlarge the framework related to the other SDGs as well, because our capacity was not enough to develop the enabling side to solutions to all the SDGs. But we already have here two important components. One social component and the environmental component as well. And by the way, the business component, because when companies innovate in these areas, they will be selling better the products and services, and they can inform the customer of the benefit of the solution through the framework that we develop. Because as you can see here, we developed the framework in three areas. One is the opportunity assessment. So we need to assess whether there is an opportunity related with a given innovation. Then solution development, which is, a given solution can not only be developed by, a single company. You need to engage other ICT companies. So the more you engage with others, the more points you get. And then we have the benefit analysis, which is about measuring and publishing the scale of the benefits. So I need to show what are the benefits of my solution to the different stakeholders. So if I'm selling a green technology, I need to explain what is the technology about. I'll give you an example. And I'm saying this because this is public. I was recently at the World Economic Forum with many business companies, and the big American company, quite well known, in the software area, made a statement at the World Economic Forum saying, my cloud is climate neutral. And so I couldn't resist and asked, well, explain to me, what does that mean, a climate neutral cloud? And she could not give me a single phrase to explain it to me. And so this gives you an idea of the greenwashing dimension that is in the marketplace. So you have big corporations selling a product, saying, my cloud is climate neutral, but what the hell is that? No, we cannot simply say, I have a green solution. What does that mean? How many carbon have you reduced? How do you measure that? What kind of indicators have you used? So we have been working in Jesse on that for quite a long time. So we are helping our members to define that. And that's why we have the European project in Brussels, because the European Commission saw that work. And that's why IMDA is so interested in the work that we are doing as well. They want to implement it here as well in Singapore. And they want to copy it and transpose it here in the region, and we will be glad to help them doing that. And so this is the component of our digital repurpose. So I go back. On one side, we have the purpose, the risk area with the 5 components. And on the other side, we have the enabling side of the framework. And these 3 pillars are the digital repurpose framework. And for the big corporations, we have around 130 indicators. It's quite easy to go through the indicators because many of them is a yes and no. But if you say yes, you need to explain what you mean by that. You need to put evidence on the platform. And if you do not put the evidence or the evidence is wrong, then the verifier will detect that. And if you gave a wrong information, you will be penalized. Because we developed an algorithm in the system that if a given company is not giving the right information, it will have a huge penalty in the final score. I give you an example. This year, as we started to, this was, or last year, 2022, it was year 0, so beginning of the process. We had a company that self-evaluated itself in the framework with 70 points on supply chain, and after the verification came down to 0. And so this is the type of scrutiny that we do. And many people tells me, well, but you are a business organization. They say, yes, I am a business, but I want to be a serious business organization. We are not here to cover up anything. We are not here to greenwash anything. We are here to ensure a fundamental transformational process that really makes a difference, because we are convinced that through that process, actually companies will be making a lot of money. They will be making a lot of money through these efficiencies that they will generate in the responsible business area, and on the enabling side, through the technologies and innovations that they will be putting in the market that will be certified by GSE. And so these two slides are packed there all together, so they explain a little bit in more detail how the framework is organized. So this is about standardizing also, but making the companies accountable. And we need to make sure that we achieve the maximum impact and deliver on our ambitious promises. Because if we promising something, we need to deliver on that. We need to be accountable. And so our framework measures, monitors performance in delivering digital solutions with the societal and the environmental impact. We look into the negatives, we look into the positives, and then we'll see where the companies stand. So, we developed the framework for digital technology providers, so traditional telecommunication companies or digital companies, big and small, so we can include component and manufacturing design companies, network and data centers, cloud, device manufacturing, branding and design, and software. But we also developed the framework for digital technology users. So a company like a law firm, you use technology. We designed the framework so you can also be part of digital with purpose. Because what we are seeing is that most of the industry sector, if not all today, they have a huge digital component in its operations. Think about an energy company today. An energy company today is almost 100% digital company. If you think about the energy infrastructure, the need for digital infrastructure for you to produce and sell energy on real time, you need smart meters, you need all that stuff. So you need cloud solutions. So you need really digital, because without digital you cannot progress the company, and you cannot also progress the achievement of the net zero and address the climate change challenges. So we developed the framework for digital technology providers, for the users. So the framework has been designed to be used by multinational companies and also by SMEs. So a company with 5 employees can use this framework. It's pretty simple. We have a set of fundamental questions. Why have we done it for SMEs? Because in most of the regions, and I think it happens the same thing here in Singapore, 80% of the economy of a country depends on SMEs. But the SMEs are not part of the ESG conversation. You need to bring them into the process, because if you don't bring them into the process, you cannot make the progress that is needed to happen. And so we designed the framework for small and medium companies. You know, companies with 10 employees, they can respond to the framework. It's pretty simple. But we ask them to be serious and to sign, once they finalize the framework and the answers, the leader of the company, the CEO, should make a commitment saying all the information is true. We verify that information. And if you come to the conclusion that there is something that does not smell good, then we will bring a verifier to verify the information. And if that company is providing wrong information, it will be kicked out from the process. So this is a very serious process that we have been designed. One thing that we've done, because of the dimension of, mainly for large companies, we have around 130 indicators. To pay for an audit of those 130 indicators, it would be very expensive for the companies. So we decided to select every year 18 metrics across the framework that will be verified. And those 18 metrics will be random. So last year, we picked up 18 metrics. This year, the metrics will be different. Why? Because by doing this, we still have a verification system that ensures the credibility of the process. On the other end, we make it less expensive to the companies, because verifying or to pay for 18 metrics is different of paying for 130 metrics. So I give you an example. This year for large companies, we had 20 large companies verified the 18 metrics. We launched a call for tender for the auditing company. We selected Ernst & Young. And GSE this year we paid for it because it was year zero, but we paid 70,000 euros to audit 18 metrics of 20 companies. So it's peanuts. So if we divide that 70,000 by the 20 companies, it would be 3,500 euros, which is nothing. You know, I used to do the auditing of my CSR report, and I used to pay 70 and 80,000 for a couple of metrics in when I was at Deutsche Telekom. So we're trying to keep also the framework, you know, simple but credible at the same time. And this is fundamental for us to move forward. As I said, when it comes to small and medium enterprises, we do not require any verification, but what we do, we analyze from the results whether there is, you know, a very high self-evaluation, and then if there is a very high if a company fills in the framework, it's around 90% at the end of the how you call it, the target. We say, well, we need to look into this and see what's going on. So we have 4 levels of certification. So when a company signs the pledge, the 4 principles, we give the company the committed stamp. So the company has not yet started to fill in the metrics, but as a recognition that the company is committed to the movement, we give them the committed stamp. After 1 year, the company needs to respond to the metrics. So we give 1 year to the companies to identify itself with the metrics, to look at the framework, to test it, because it's on a platform. The companies can look into it and see where they are, verify. They can understand what type of effort. They need to understand what kind of information they need to collect to respond. So we give them 1 year to adapt. After 1 year, they will start to be verified. And then depending, and by the way, these thresholds are only exemplary. You know? So in the framework is different. So after 1 year, they will then respond to the metrics. And then if they go over the threshold, they will get the next certification level, and they will end up in diamond, and that's why we call it the race to the top. No company can stay in the same level more than 3 years, because this is a commitment to change. Digital with purpose is about walking the talk, is about changing. We are not asking any company to make a commitment to reduce 20% of its emissions, or 30% or 40%. That does not make sense. Because you can commit whatever if you don't walk the talk. So we are not asking anyone to commit to anything. What we are asking is that if you join, you need to commit to the process. You need to evolve. You need to make sure that you are really responding to the challenges that we are facing. So this is a very serious process. It's very challenging. Why is it challenging? Because many companies have been playing games with sustainability. So we want to make a difference with the digital with purpose movement, and we are convinced if companies join the movement that we can show a huge impact when it comes to the SDGs. Because once we have all these data collected, we can say, this is the impact that we had on education at global level. This is the impact that we had on health and well-being, on climate and so on. Because we can pull all of that data together and report collectively on the impact of digital technologies. So we developed this process with an external board of our organizations. So we have the technicians, the experts to develop the indicators for the framework, but then we had a board to verify that work, and that board was done by these organizations that you see here: World Benchmarking Alliance, University of Cambridge, Columbia University, NL Foundation, CDP, Circularity Capital, and Be Shaping the Future. All of these organizations are specialized in sustainability, as you can see. Probably you recognize some of them. And in the board, we only had 2 GESI members, because the GESI board wanted to be there to see. And we said, okay, you can sit there, but you have no voting rights. So GESI and the business had no influence whatsoever in the outcome in terms of the framework development. So these organizations, so this board was led by the Cambridge University, the Institute for Sustainability Leadership, which is one of the most recognized institutes in the world. And they were the chair of this board, and we had very relevant organizations working with us, developing the framework. So, what are the member benefits? Well, by joining this process, we will be collectively contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals. You will be joining a group of, we call it like-minded leaders. We want leaders to be part of this. We want CEOs to step up and show, leadership. Then, here I list, a series of reasons why companies should join the Digital Repurpose movement. I will not spend very much time because I hope that I have convinced you already through my presentation. And here are some of the benefits that you can get by joining the movement as well. We listed, around 10 benefits which are common to any company joining the Digital Repurpose movement. This is the first set of companies that joined the Digital Repurpose movement. So as you can see here, you can see big corporations, NTT in Japan. This is a law firm, by the way, VDA. TCS, Tata Consultancy Services, that you know. SIPS is a bank, just to give you an idea. This is a cable company, Superior, SX. You have Telstra. This is a building company, TL Osbau, a German company. Ridley Scott, the movie maker. Who else do we have here? Quattro Casas is a law firm, big law firm, by the way, a global law firm. We have Accenture, Bolt, EDP is an energy company. By the way, they have an office here, an operation in Singapore. I'm visiting them tomorrow. So this is outside, as you can see, from the traditional GESI membership. I showed the GESI members before. It was mainly telecom service providers and suppliers. As you can see here, we have different sectors, from construction. This company is a small company, IFA. KMAS is a very small company. Talking about companies with 15 employees. So they joined the movement. They are now part of the movement. They have been responding to the framework. And this is the ones that started the Digital Repurpose movement. These are the partners that helped us. You recognize some of them that were members of the board. But we have Capitals Coalition, which is a huge organization working on natural capital, probably the biggest in the world. CDP, Circularity Capital, I already mentioned. CIROD is a university. Cambridge, the ITU, International Telecommunications Union, another university, Internet Commission, the European Digital SME Alliance, so the Small and Medium Enterprises Association in Europe, Deloitte, Humanities University. This is a global educational initiative, platform for tech for the SDGs, and that brings together the International Science Council and so on, the World Benchmarking Alliance, the World Oceans Council in Columbia and Neves. So these are the partners that joined. You can see here the CEOs of these organizations that are part of this. The CEO of ZTE, NTT CEO, Swisscom CEO, and so on and so on. So they gave the face These are the partners. This is a slide about the launch of Digital Repurpose. We have launched the movement in Lisbon during the Portuguese presidency of the European Union. And we have here quite well-known faces. So Martin Schulz was the president of the European Parliament. He's now a member of the German Parliament. You can see Georg Kell. Georg Kell was the first director of the UN Global Compact, that I guess you know. This guy was the Portuguese State Secretary that joined the event as well. Then here we have a couple of CEOs and so on. So this was a very high-level event when we launched the movement in Lisbon. So we have future plans. Now the future plans is, of course, to grow the movement and to promote our event, the Digital Repurpose Global Summit. And I'm showing you this short video which reflects
Here we are,
the first summit.
once again. So many promises have been made and accords signed. The state of our planet continues to worsen at an alarming rate. The consequences of humanity's failure to tackle the climate emergency are steering civilization into collapse. We are failing our planet, society, and future generations. But we have the power to shift course and take action now. This year, the world's leading tech players will gather in Lisbon for the Digital with Purpose Global Summit to showcase and strengthen their commitment to innovate, invest in, and deploy sustainable solutions. Together, we will use digital technologies to accelerate the path towards a better future. This is a global summit for leaders who want to make a lasting positive change by building a prosperous and healthy new world.
So that's it. So we have the framework, we have the metrics, we have the members. The summit is the place where we want the companies to showcase the solutions. We are not organizing a Mobile World Congress. We are not organizing a technology summit. We are organizing an event where we want to connect technology and digital with the real life. We want to show the benefit of digital technologies for people. We need to showcase those technologies, and we use the summit to scale up those technologies. So we did the first summit last year in September. It was a big adventure. I put the summit up in 3 months. We had 1,400 people joining. We had 140 speakers coming all around the world. And Eric already showed you the 8-minute version of the summit. We covered 26 different thematic areas. So if you go to the website of the summit, we have a specific website. You can see the different thematic areas and the speakers and so on. You can have a snapshot of the debates. We have 20 videos with all the conversations that took place. There were recommendations that we are now taking to the next summit. This year, we are planning to do a 3-day summit, have 20,000 people coming. It will be in Lisbon again, because we are, let's say, at the very beginning, so we need to make sure that we have the capacity to, let's say, to have a proper summit in place. And then we are considering to do regional summits as well as we move forward. The objective of the summit is not to make money. These summits, you can make a lot of money out of it. Think about Web Summit or Mobile World Congress. Why GSMA is organizing Mobile World Congress? They created a separate company just to make money out of the Mobile World Congress. If we make money out of this, the money will go for social projects. So we are creating a foundation that will take care of that money and invest the money in countries and in projects we need. Why? Because the companies that will be sponsoring the organizations, I don't want them to give me money. I want that money to be used for the pay the cost of the summit, but then what is left, we will use it with a social intention. So we can benefit people, we can invest on specific projects, helping countries. We are now discussing a project here in Cambodia. I'm now in conversations with the government. The first summit was, a kickoff. We spent €500,000. I got enough money from the sponsor, so it was not on my Jersey budget, but we got enough money to pay for the summit. We were lucky because it was a very short time. This year it will be a different conversation. We will have a different dimension. Companies coming in with big exhibitions and so on. So, but as I said, it is not our intention to make any money. I know how much money it costs to organize this. It's less than €1 million. We already have the budget. I can make 5 or 6 or 7 million euros with it. But what is left is not for us. It's not for Jesse. It's to invest on projects, to invest on people, to support people in need. That's the objective of digital repurpose. The objective of digital repurpose is to advance technology, is to make sure that we as an industry, and I will finish here, we give a contribution for this world to be a better place. That's our mission, and that's what digital repurpose is all about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Luis. We will have the Q&A before we go into the DwP Digital Repurpose Accelerator. Any questions?
Just matter of clarification, because you see a framework. Because if you do now in Singapore, those people listed company, they have to make mandatory ESG reporting to MAS for So your framework, would that be under the same level like ESB, SSB, DwP with regard to the reporting?
So.
Because certain people, I think you have like climate initiative for that, because if you get a bond, right, green financing, they look at the framework.
So there is a fundamental difference between what your question and what we are doing here. This is not about reporting. What we are developing here, as I said, is a tool for the companies to improve their sustainability performance and to make an impact. The report will come automatically from the system. Once you fill the framework, we can pull out a report about your performance. What you're talking about is, those reports that, now the European Commission just issued a law that all the companies now they have to do a sustainability report. That's not, you can use this information for your sustainability report. And you can use this information to show progress and evidence because you have the certification. But this is not aimed at being the traditional ESG sustainability report.
Thanks for the clarification.
Any other questions? That means the presentation is very clear. Okay, everyone nod their head. Okay, once again, thanks Luis for the presentations. So I just move to the next topics. Okay, I think just now we have got some questions. Is like Jesse is far away in Europe, and then there's another outfit in US. So Luis mentions be good to set up an outfit in Asia. It's good that like Luis choose Singapore, right? So this will be, I think you heard that justice is not new, but digital repurpose is one of the program, the movement, which is newly launched, that like in conjunction with all these SDGs, sustainability goal that we want to achieve. And then we believe that like digital solutions or digital innovations can actually help all these things to speed up the whole sustainability goal, right? And it's been proven, and there's many reports show that like digital technology do helps, right? Not only on this SDG, ESG part, of course SDG also including of the humanity and so on, right? So the whole intention is that we want to see like how do we use this digital technology, right? How do we measure it, right? In order to for everyone to actually achieve the indicator they want to achieve. Because now there's so many digital solutions out there, but you can't measure. Say, let's say for example, I move my system to the cloud. How much carbon emissions or carbon footprint that I save? If I translate my manual process that using paper to digital, what will happen that from there? So I think as Louis mentioned, is like this is all these processes, the tools, right, allow you to do things. At the end of days, it's like you can measure how much of this carbon footprint or emission that you save, so that you can use this one for your whatever reporting. Because every countries they have their own reportings. Even though some is like from the listed companies, from the stock exchange, some is from the central banks, right? They all have the indicators they want to achieve, but the thing is like, how do you achieve that, right? I think many countries they have their own goal they want to achieve, but the question is like most people will ask, how do I do that? Where should I start? Of course, you can go to all the big 4 or big 5 and all these things, right? You can achieve all these with the all these consultations and so on, right? Then you need to actually do a full project on that. But is there something for you to measure or to start, right? To using this digital technology to in order for you to see the outcome, right? Or even like low-hanging fruit outcome, stage by stage. Right, so this is something we want to do. Now to do that is like, I think many people heard about this accelerator, right? They have a startup accelerator, talent accelerators, right? So this one is the DwP accelerator. Technically it's like a hand-holding process, right? From one stage to another stage. Just now Louis presented our framework and our accreditations framework. We have 4 levels. So people will actually commit, right? When the CEO sign the pledge, like, okay, I want to commit this with digital repurpose. So once you sign up, and what we mentioned is like, we don't want people to keep in one stage in more than 3 years. So we need to have a program, and this is what we call the DwP Accelerator, to help these organizations realize month by month, quarter by quarter, year by year, what they have done, what are the outcomes they achieve. And once they achieve the highest outcome based on the indicator that we have, then they can move to the next level. And with that, I think nowadays it's like a lot of buyer or a lot of consumers, they will actually look at your organization contributions to the sustainability, whether they want to partner with you or not, whether they want to buy products with you or not. I think nowadays it's like most of the countries, they have what they call the green or ESG fund. Right? There are many PE firms that I talked to lately, they actually divert most of their fund into this as well. So if they invest into your organization, they want to see is like what you do for the sustainability, so that your organization can be sustainable. Right? If you don't do all these things, it's like, if I invest into your organizations, right, how long can your organization sustain? Right? So this is the trend. Right? The trends and the people are more concerned about all these things. So people, in a way, if you commit to this, right, you can see that like rather than increase your profits, right? Increase profits, there's only 2 ways. It's like either you increase your revenue or you cut the cost. Right? If you think about other ways, you can let me know. Maybe there's some new way you can do that. Right? I think those people in finance are more interested to know, right? Other than these 2 ways to increase your profit. right? So the sustainability just now has been proven. We have a lot of report, and Neves has presented that a lot of case studies can be done, right? And we have the tools and the framework to help our organization to do it. And this accelerator is to do that. And we have two main parts of this accelerator. I just now mentioned that we need people to talk, right? So we need people to come together to talk, to communicate, right? So that they can discover the collaborations opportunities. So we will create many dialogues. Like today is one of them. And this dialogue will be in each of the countries in the Southeast Asia. Now we have 11 countries in Southeast Asia, 10 plus 1. Right? We're going to do these dialogues, right, once per quarter in each of these countries in order for people to come up with the challenges to debate. So then, even though we have the similar frameworks, but then we will actually come up with the priorities. We come up with the steps and the process of all these things differently in each country. So everyone can see the low-hanging fruit. Not only the big company we will target on the small company as well. So we have a goal that we want to achieve by end of the year 2025. In the whole Southeast Asia, we want to get 10,000 company on board. If you divide, it's about 1,000 for each company. But of course, for each country. But of course, some country they will achieve more. So we want to get 10,000 company on board. Now, some organizations will go faster. Some will go slower throughout the process. And we have the accelerator to help them. And on top of that, we build an academy within the accelerator. Now people want to learn. They need resources. Like today's, right, we actually have a live session of these sessions. We make it into the recordings. It can become online or e-learnings. And then every session that we do from each of the country in their local language, right? Not here is English. In Vietnam, we will be Vietnamese. In Thailand, we will Thai. And then every of these things will make it into the available in the academy, so that people can actually go there and learn themselves, right? In the time that are convenient to them. In the meantime, it's we will start to put in university and research organizations, so that we will have all these reports and things, trends, all these things available. In fact, as Jesse already have a lot of these reports. If anyone become a member, you can access to all these reports. Right, all these things, it can help the organizations to identify the trend, to identify their positions, and then also understand which destinations or goal they want to achieve. So this is something that we'll be doing now. Even though we call it a Southeast Asia Accelerator or DwP Accelerator, in fact, we were working with each country government to set up their own country accelerator. Because as we aware that every countries, they have a different set of challenges, right? Some countries, they have all these humanity issue. They don't have clean water, all these things. They need to settle this one first before they actually move to the next level. So we cannot actually ask everyone to be on the same position or same pace, right? So after some years, I think we can actually easily come up with some localized priorities. And this accelerator in each of the countries will be actually entertaining the country's needs, so that they can move up from one level to one level. I think nowadays is just now Louis shared a very inspired talks, right, sharings, that we are now, some people, most people are not aware what is the thing happen to the planet now. Right, we know global warming. We know the ice is radically melting in the North South Pole and all these things. We see a polar bear which is getting skinny and skinny. You see a lot of these pictures, right? Actually, the basic things to identify this kind of issue is flood, right? I think you see the news now. New Zealand are in the bad shapes in the north, right? People are dying over there. So the thing is more and more landslide, flood, everywhere happens, right? How come years, right, it's not happened and it happened now, right? If you go and trace, right, all these things is it bit by bit, it actually contribute to this. And the scarcity of resources is a very serious issue now, right? We actually use the future resources to sustain our lifestyle now. When we talk about circular economies and all these things, right, people always think that if the only things that you can do now, right, the very basic thing is like when you operate your companies, right, you operate your government, how can you don't use future resources for your lifestyle now? This is something that you need to think, right? If you use the future resources to sustain your lifestyle, that means it's like you are making your next generation suffer, right? It might also not happen to your next generation, but it will be your next generation. That means your grandchildren's guarantee will be suffer from that, based on what we are doing, right? So that's why we just want everyone to play their role as part of this whole sustainability journey. And a lot of times, like people always think like, how do I do that? And we want to use digital to help to accelerate the whole sustainability journey. And there are many examples. So just now Luis mentioned about the DwP Global Summit. Please do go to the website, and they have many vertical discussions. They got healthcare, they got these retails, they got finance, and so on. Right? If I'm not mistaken, I think there are about 8 verticals there. So you can see people, the 100 over speakers that invite, they are talking about within their own vertical, how the digital technology or digital transformation or digitalizations is helping their industry to reduce the carbon emissions and to improve the sustainability. So we will do the similar dialogues in each of the countries, right, based on vertical and also based on the broad as well. So all this information that we gather, we have a team to actually make it into the academy, so people can actually refer that, right? So that from time to time, you can see we want to share some of the success story that people are doing it, and how much carbon footprint they cut down, and then how much profit they increase, and how much cost they actually cut as well. So these are the things what we want to do with the Accelerator. So within the academy, we actually, as I mentioned, we have face-to-face, we have online virtuals, right, trainings, and then we put in all the e-learning, which is like including all the videos that we actually created, so that people can actually refer. As Luis mentioned, is that this kind of thing is like we need to keep on doing it year by year. We want to bring people together, and because of these avenues, many organizations start to appoint a person in charge, right? Either ESG heads or the sustainability managers, right, to come together to attend this event and then report back to their board. If we don't do things like this, right, the company cannot find a reason to appoint these positions, right? So that most of the company will have a CSR manager or CSR head. And now a lot of companies start to appoint. Even as a country in Singapore, it's just get the government chief sustainability officer appointed, right, to look into the whole green plan and all these things, right? So I think with that, if you have any questions, you can continue to ask. So this one, the aspirations program, so it's like later on we will send out all the informations regarding all the meet stuff and all these things. And we do encourage one country's audience to go to another countries, right? And then we also allow invite speakers from each different countries to go to other countries, because we want to have more conversations to create this kind of dialogue, so that you can come up with more plans and that you can move on. So we also allow everyone to have their own plans. They can do things themselves with the support of our side, so that like whatever things success they can share with the rest of the countries. So we can actually learn from each other, right? So this is the main goal of the whole Digital Repurpose Accelerator. Any questions? As Luis mentioned, the intention is not to make money, but it's just to get everyone together. I think most organizations is running their CSR program as well, right? So this is maybe a part of things they can actually also involve. I think I'm also explaining it too clear, right? Yeah, we will actually send out these informations of the programs, right? To join, as Luis mentioned, to join this once you put down the patch on the first level for digital repurpose, you are already in the accelerator, and that one is no cost, right? And then when move from this, then those people who sign out the batch, they're on the first level, from first move to second, third, and fourth, and then they will have a set of KPIs. So those people who sign up, we will bring them together in the accelerator so that to explain to them is like what are the indicators in place, the 100 over indicators, right? If they want to move out to the next level, every year there's 18 indicators you can pick up, and what are the tools and the processes, the things they can do, right, in order to achieve that. And we actually guide them from end to end, right, to do this. Of course, if those people, they want to send it for the academy, for trainings or anything, that one will be a cost involved, right? It's a similar like how people do it for ISO, right? So yearly they have audits or they have things, right? This one is like once they move up to the next level, the highest level, then that means it's like they have to continuously to achieve all these indicators, right? So I think commonly is very common. If a profit center is like once they see benefit, right, they will continue doing it. You don't need to push them, right? They will continue to do it non-stop, right? They will even like give you more ideas. It's like how best they can do it in order for them to increase their profits. And of course, it's like at the end of the day, if you pay zero carbon tax, is the best. Right? If you can't reduce the carbon, all these things, you just buy carbon credits, right? So, but you still spend money buying carbon credits, right? So this is the thing. So in a nutshell, we know people need help. We know smaller company, SME need help. They just don't know and they can't afford those big consulting firms. So that's why we have the accelerator. It's the same thing like the startup accelerator, talent accelerator. It's just to accelerate the process. And we have all the tools in place. I think you can see all the tools that Louis explained, right? And as Louis mentioned, he never see any organization that puts so much efforts on the tools itself, right? So since we have all the tools, might as well we make full use of it, right? Yeah.
So Eric, am I to assume that this accelerator academy is targeting SMEs for all attention? It's customized for them, or is big and small all combined together, and then when you come on board, you can choose to go which kind of directions?
Actually, accelerator, the direct answer is that the accelerator is open to everyone. Doesn't matter they're big or small, government or private. Right? It's just that once they come into this accelerator, they have a different pathway for the different size of organizations. They have different pathway for government and different pathway for the private. But the indicator is the same.
Yeah.
And
as you know, I'm from the educational sector. Is there something that's along that line of education kind?
yes, in the discussion there's this one whole track for the educations.
Yeah, I saw the COVID idea. I thought that was very interesting.
So the COVID is a network of universities, global universities, and they were the partner that developed the metrics on the enabling side of the framework, because it's about how do you deploy innovations on the educational side that contribute. And so COVID was the one that developed that process. I think they have now over, I don't know, 150 universities across the world, and they are our partners, and they developed the framework. So,
any university from Singapore in the framework yet?
sorry?
In Singapore, any university in the framework already from Singapore?
No.
Like
At the moment, no.
No.
Maybe next few months you can see.
Yeah, no. So, coming to the matter of the cost. So, I'm talking from the Jesse perspective. On the DwP, as Eric said, the first year is, the companies get the commitment, is 1 hour, the first year is free, they don't pay anything. When they start to fill in the metrics, there is a cost associated to it because we have staff taking care of the framework. I wanted to separate it from the GSE organization. So up to now, GSE has paid for everything. We paid for the framework development, to the experts. I don't know, we invested 1.5 million euros
Right.
already to have this in place. As we move forward, what we're trying, it's the companies that define the cost of it. Because we have a kind of general meeting of the DwP companies.
Yep.
So we have a governance, and we make that transparent to the companies. And then we decide what kind of cost is associated to the program, and then we divide the cost by all of them, depending on the size of the company, of course. So if we're talking about a micro SME, the cost will be probably $500 or so.
Yeah.
If it's a big corporation that makes millions, of course they have to pay more.
Okay. Thank you.
So in a nutshell, it is like all these framework and accreditation programs that Louis showed all of you just now is actually will be put under the Accelerator, and the Accelerator is the one which is helping and supporting the organization to move on from stage to stage. Right. So it's just implementation units, and of course this also in the consultation unit. Any further questions? Okay, I think we are on time to end 12+. Once again, thank you for your attention, and thanks Luis all the way from Belgium to come down all the way down here, right, to have these sessions. We actually make all these sessions online, I think, and also have the video recording, so it's available to everyone. And some of the audience requests for these slides, I will talk to Luis and which are the things we can make available, so we can actually send it to everyone so that you can have these things. And we hope that we will continue the dialogues from now on, right? We have all of your contacts and those things, so we will have more dialogues coming up until the level which is just like we come up with special localized versions of the process or the Accelerator for each of the country in Southeast Asia, and really hope that we can reach to 10,000 organizations to pledge by the year 2025. Thank you very much.